The Clockwork Horizon city slept under a blanket of neon rain, streets shimmering like spilled mercury. Prometheus, Jack, and Professor Mara stood atop the tallest spire of the Neolithic tower, peering across a horizon where the sun seemed trapped behind a perpetual smog. "Time isn't linear here," Mara whispered, her fingers tracing constellations of data hovering in the air. "The machines we built. They remember the past before it happens." Prometheus' eyes glowed faintly. "Then maybe we can teach them empathy." Jack laughed softly, but there was a tremor beneath it, a recognition that the challenge was enormous. The trio leapt from spire to spire using gravity-manipulating devices. Each leap a metaphor. They were crossing the abyss between humanity and godhood, daring to reach beyond mortal limitation. At the city's edge, they found the lanterns of Ian, a forgotten relic that pulsed with chronal energy. Each lantern held a memory of the world that could be rewritten. As Prometheus touched one, he glimpsed a vision of humanity thriving in a balance with its machines if only they dared to act. By the end of the night, a pact was silently formed. They would become the guardians of potential, intervening where humanity could not, exposing truths hidden beneath the everyday veil. The trio descended into the alleyways where neon reflections warped like liquid mirrors. Every shadow seemed alive, whispering secrets of past explorers who had vanished chasing the impossible. "Do you ever wonder," Jack murmured, "if we're the last ones brave enough to touch the edge?" Prometheus didn't answer. His mind was already inside the lanterns of Ian, feeling their rhythm like a heartbeat not yet born. Every lantern contained a fragment of possibility, wars unstarted, inventions unrealized, love untold. Mara pulled them into a hidden corridor beneath the city. The walls were etched with symbols, half ancient, half digital, a language that seemed to evolve as they stared. "This place," she said, "is a warning. The abyss we walk is not just outside, it's inside us." At the end of the corridor, they found the Obsidian Gate, a massive monolith covered in swirling codes. "It chooses who may pass," Mara explained. "Not strength, not intellect. Only those willing to confront themselves." Prometheus stepped forward. The gate rippled, showing a vision of his father Prometheus, the Titan-bound, suffering for humanity's fire. He realized that the chains were not punishment but potential, the power to bring light at great personal cost. Jack followed, seeing his own fear reflected, a life of mediocrity, never daring beyond comfort. And Mara, she faced an endless library of her own doubts, each book a path not taken. Together, they touched the gate. For a moment, reality trembled. Time folded. They glimpsed cities in the clouds, deserts alive with bioluminescent flora, and oceans carrying floating metropolises, places humans could not reach, yet they could. When the vision ended, the gate had opened. Beyond it lay a labyrinth of forgotten knowledge, waiting for them to uncover what humanity could not yet imagine. Prometheus turned to his friends, voice steady. "This is just the beginning. What lies beyond will change everything." Jack smirked. "Then let's not keep the world waiting." And as they stepped into the unknown, the lanterns above flickered one by one like stars nodding in approval. The gate was the mind itself, an infinite labyrinth where fear and ambition were twin shadows, and only those willing to embrace both could reach the light. The labyrinth beyond the Obsidian Gate was alive. Not with creatures, but with possibilities, walls that shifted when you hesitated, corridors that led somewhere else if your intention faltered. Every step they took was measured not in distance, but in resolve. Prometheus led, feeling the rhythm of the lanterns in his veins. "It's like the labyrinth knows us," he said. "It tests what we fear most." Jack's usual bravado faltered as a corridor stretched infinitely, a mirror of his own indecision. He reached out, touching the walls, feeling a pulse beneath the surface, almost human. "I think it's alive," he whispered. Mara examined the inscriptions etched into the shifting walls. "Not alive," she corrected. "Conscious. And it speaks in riddles. It wants us to solve ourselves before it reveals the world beyond." A sudden tremor shook the labyrinth. A section of the floor became a transparent glass, revealing a bottomless chasm below. Lanterns hovered above the void, their light pulsing like the heartbeat of a giant, Prometheus took a deep breath and stepped forward, Jack hesitating beside him. "Trust the lanterns," Prometheus said, "and they'll guide you, one by one." They walked across the shifting tiles, each step a test of courage. A metaphor for walking the tightrope between fear and destiny. Halfway across, a shadow emerged, a shape that mirrored Prometheus himself, twisted and dark. "You carry the fire," it hissed, "but can you bear the flame?" Prometheus' eyes flared with determination. "I don't just carry it. I'll share it. That's the only way we survive." The shadow recoiled, dissolving into 1,000 sparks that became tiny lanterns floating in the void. "Then pass," it whispered, fading. Finally, they reached the end of the glass corridor. Before them stretched a vast chamber filled with floating orbs of knowledge, memories of humanity's unrealized potential, inventions never built, stories never told. The air shimmered with the scent of ozone and forgotten dreams. Mara knelt to touch one. This is the fire we've been seeking. It's not energy. It's the capacity to imagine beyond limits, to act where others cannot." Jack's grin returned, wide and almost feral. "Then what are we waiting for? Let's take it to the world and shake it awake." Prometheus smiled, knowing the journey had just begun. Beyond this chamber lay challenges humanity could never face. And yet, the three of them, son of Prometheus, the daring friend, and the relentless scholar, would carry the light. The labyrinth was the human mind, and the lanterns were the fragments of courage and imagination that allow one to step beyond fear. Every challenge was a mirror, reflecting not what they were, but what they could become. The chamber of floating orbs hummed like a living galaxy. Each orb contained a flicker of possibility, a life unlived, a discovery untouched, a world never made. The trio stepped carefully among them, aware that one misstep could shatter not just the orbs but their own sense of reality. Prometheus reached toward a particularly radiant orb. The instant his fingers brushed its surface, the world around them dissolved into pure light. Time fractured. He saw centuries collapsing into moments, civilizations rising and falling in the blink of an eye. And in every fragment, humanity's potential flickered, sometimes bright, sometimes snuffed out by fear, greed, or apathy. Jack's voice echoed, distant and warped. "Is this real, or just a dream?" Mara's eyes reflected 1,000 stars. "It's both, and neither. The labyrinth doesn't test your body, it tests your vision. Can you bear the weight of seeing what humanity could become and still act?" Suddenly, the floor beneath them rippled. Shapes emerged from the void, shadow echoes of the human mind, fears made manifest. Tentacles of doubt lashed toward them, whispering every insecurity they'd ever held. Prometheus felt the weight of legacy pressing on him. The fire his father had stolen from the gods was not just a gift, it was a responsibility. Could he wield it without consuming himself? Jack lunged forward, swinging a gravity blade Mara had forged for him. Each strike carved paths of light through the shadows, illuminating fragments of possibility that would otherwise be lost. Mara raised her hands, chanting sequences that weren't words but pure logic, shaping the air like a sculptor shaping clay. The shadows recoiled, revealing a hidden staircase spiraling upward. "This is the next level," she said. "Whatever awaits us above. It's not just danger, it's revelation." Prometheus led the climb, Jack beside him, and Mara calculating every step. The lanterns above pulsed in rhythm with their hearts, as if cheering them on or warning them. At the top, a single, immense orb floated, larger than any before. Its surface rippled like liquid silver. Inside, they could see their own world, yet altered, cities floating on oceans, deserts glowing with energy, skies filled with bridges of light connecting continents. Prometheus whispered, "This is what we're meant to protect and maybe even create." Jack grinned, adrenaline roaring. "Then let's get to work. The world won't wait for us to be ready." Mara nodded, her eyes reflecting both hope and caution. "And remember, the labyrinth always watches. Every choice we make here echoes far beyond these walls." The trio stepped forward together, toward the orb, toward the unknown. And as they did, the lanterns flickered brighter than ever, casting their light down the endless corridors of possibility. The chamber was the soul of humanity itself, fragile, luminous, and infinite. Each orb a dream deferred, each shadow a fear, and the act of stepping forward a testament to courage, vision, and the relentless pursuit of the impossible. The immense silver orb floated above them, suspended in the void like a moon made of liquid light. Its surface shifted and churned, reflecting not only the world outside the labyrinth but fragments of their own memories. Each reflection carried whispers echoes of who they were, who they could become, and who they feared to be. Prometheus reached out, and the orb rippled like water under his touch. Instantly, the labyrinth around them dissolved into a cascade of stars. They were no longer in a corridor of stone and light, but floating in an infinite sky, the ground nowhere to be found. Lanterns hung in the void like fireflies, each one pulsing with an unspoken promise. Jack's stomach dropped. "Are we dead?" "Not dead," Mara said softly, her voice calm despite the void surrounding them. "We've crossed into the threshold of possibility. The labyrinth doesn't kill, it tests. It asks, can you bear what's unseen, what's unimaginable, and still act?" Prometheus felt a weight pressing on his chest. Memories of his father, the original Prometheus, flashed before him, the stolen fire, the punishment, the defiance. Every choice his father had made now seemed to echo in him. The fire isn't just power, it's responsibility. A shadow emerged from the orb itself, a figure that was Prometheus and yet not Prometheus. Its eyes burned with all the fears he had ever suppressed: failure, weakness, doubt. It spoke without a voice, a vibration in his mind. "The fire you carry can illuminate or consume." Prometheus squared his shoulders. "Then I will wield it wisely. I will light the path, even if it burns me." The shadow shuddered and dispersed, scattering sparks into the void. Jack stepped forward, his hands gripping the gravity blade. The shadows that had been lingering in the corners of the void now coalesced into twisted, almost human forms. Doubts and fears that had haunted him in life took shape, reaching for him with invisible hands. Jack swung the blade in arcs of pure light. With each strike, the shadows shrieked silently and dissolved, revealing flashes of forgotten possibilities, inventions never built, discoveries never made, art never imagined. "Everything we've lost. Maybe we can reclaim it," he muttered. Mara raised her hands, her fingers weaving through the air. She was shaping the void itself, bending its logic like clay. Symbols of ancient knowledge and modern mathematics flowed from her palms, connecting the lanterns above to the silver orb. Slowly, a pattern emerged, a network of light, a map of possibilities and choices. "This," she said, voice resonant, "is the blueprint of potential. What we see here isn't reality. Yet, it's a seed. And we are the gardeners." Prometheus stepped closer to the orb. His reflection shimmered, and he saw not just himself but the three of them together, each a vital flame in the darkness. "Then we planned it. And protect it. Humanity isn't ready to see this yet. But we can guide them." The orb pulsed in response, sending ripples of light through the lanterns. The labyrinth, the shadows, the infinite void, they all seemed to bend toward the trio, recognizing their resolve. The stars around them brightened, forming constellations that mirrored their own silhouettes. Jack laughed, the sound echoing like thunder in the endless sky. "Well, that was intense. What's next? Saving the world?" Mara smiled faintly, though her eyes remained thoughtful. "Not saving the world. Preparing it. We've crossed the threshold of human limitation, but the challenges beyond this chamber will test more than courage. They will test vision, ethics, and the very essence of what it means to be human." Prometheus extended his hand toward the orb. It opened beneath his touch, revealing a staircase of light spiraling upward into an unknown skyline, cities in the clouds, rivers of energy, forests glowing with bioluminescent life. The possibilities of the future stretched before them, infinite and waiting. Jack clutched his blade. "Then let's take the first step. No turning back." Mara placed her hand over his and Prometheus, completing the silent pact. "Together, Whatever comes, we face it as one, and as the three of them ascended the staircase of light, the labyrinth behind them dissolved, leaving only the flickering lanterns. Each lantern pulsed in time with their hearts, a silent reminder the path forward would be dangerous, wondrous, and unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. The labyrinth, the orb, and the shadows were the human mind and the universe of potential within it. The fire they carried was imagination and courage, capable of shaping worlds but demanding responsibility, discipline, and vision. Their journey was not just outward, it was inward, into the depths of possibility itself. The staircase of light spiraled endlessly upward, suspended in the void of impossibility. Each step was solid beneath their feet, yet the air around them shimmered with illusion cities that might exist, oceans flowing like liquid glass, forests glowing with ethereal light. The three of them moved cautiously, each step a negotiation between courage and fear. Prometheus paused, peering over the edge. Below, the remnants of the labyrinth writhed like a sea of shadows. Every corridor, every test, every echo of doubt and potential they had faced it all together. Yet now, ascending into the unknown, he understood that the real challenge was not surviving the labyrinth, but confronting what lay beyond it. The future humanity could not reach on its own. Jack adjusted the straps on his gravity harness. "I faced some weird stuff in my life," he said, trying to lighten the mood, "but I think this one tops it." Mara, ever the scholar, was silent, her eyes scanning the glowing horizon, her mind calculating probabilities, outcomes, and hidden dangers. "This staircase is more than a path," she said softly. "It is a filter. Each step measures not your strength, but your vision, your willingness to see beyond the ordinary. Few could ascend, and fewer still would survive what awaits at the top." Prometheus clenched his fists, feeling the pulse of the lanterns through the solace of his feet. The light coursing through him was not merely physical, it was metaphysical, a vibration of potential, a fire inherited from a father who had dared to steal from the gods. He realized, suddenly, that the labyrinth had not been testing their ability to fight or solve puzzles. It had been testing their ability to endure revelation, the revelation that human potential was vast, chaotic, and dangerous. As they climbed, the silver orb above them expanded, revealing a series of floating platforms, each holding fragments of possible worlds. One platform was a city carved entirely from crystal, shimmering in a storm of electric clouds. Another was a forest of towering bioluminescent trees, their roots tangled with glowing veins of energy. The trio walked across the platforms carefully, feeling the pulse of creation beneath their feet. Suddenly, a section of the staircase dissolved beneath them. They plummeted, but the lanterns above reacted instantly, forming a bridge of light that caught them mid-fall. Prometheus grabbed Jack's arm, pulling him up, while Mara manipulated the light, stabilizing the bridge. "Nothing here obeys ordinary physics," Jack muttered, panting. "Or sanity." "No," Prometheus agreed. "It obeys something higher, something human beings have forgotten how to reach." At the top of the final platform, they arrived at a city suspended in midair, bathed in a light that seemed alive. Bridges of luminescent energy connected towers that stretched into clouds, while rivers of liquid light flowed between buildings. Floating creatures, part biological, part mechanical, drifted through the air, their movements graceful, deliberate, intelligent. Mara stepped forward, eyes wide. "This is a blueprint of what humanity could be, but it is fragile. One misstep, one misuse of power, and it collapses." Prometheus approached the largest tower, a crystalline spire pulsing with energy. He could see inside. Laboratories filled with inventions that humans had only dreamed of, machines that bent reality, gardens that produced food in abundance, libraries of knowledge that spanned centuries. His heart ached with the knowledge that this potential was real, yet inaccessible to the world below. Jack looked around, incredulous. "So, we're basically the first ones to get here, and no one else can." "Yes," Mara said, voice steady but somber. "And that is why we exist. Not to rule, not to dominate, but to guide. Humanity isn't ready for this yet, but we can carry the fire where others cannot." Prometheus lifted his gaze to the horizon, where faint constellations mirrored the lanterns that had guided them. Then we'll take the light, the knowledge, the potential, and we will show the way. Step by step, world by world. But we must be careful. This power, even the smallest misstep, could consume us, just as it consumed my father. Jack grinned, tightening his grip on the gravity blade. Then let's make history, or make the future, anyway. Mara nodded, her eyes reflecting both fear and awe. And remember, every action echoes. We cannot simply survive here, we must understand. Each choice, each revelation, each act of courage or folly. It all matters. The labyrinth taught us that. Now, the real test begins. Above them, the lanterns pulsed like stars coming alive. Below, the abyss of forgotten possibilities awaited. And in between, Prometheus, Jack, and Mara, 3 humans with the fire of God, stood ready to illuminate what the world could never see on its own. The staircase and floating city were humanity's unrealized potential. The labyrinth and shadows were doubts and fears. The lanterns were courage and imagination. And the trio themselves were the sparks necessary to ignite a future beyond ordinary limits, a future of revelation, risk, and transcendence.